Hello out there in YouTube land. I like to say hi to my grandkids and my son and my daughter-in-law, my family on the East Coast, my family on the West Coast, and the class of 2114. Hi. Um, I didn't get the job. They sent me one of those little tacky form emails. Your qualifications were, examined, but we went with another candidate, la la la, which means you were too black, too old, too big, too girl for the job. But hey, keep your job because um, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, whenever, when I'm walking up on stage accepting the Pulitzer Prize, you will be sitting in your little cubicle, whoever got the job, in your little cubicle watching me on your computer thinking, wow, that woman came in for an interview for this very job. Now look at her. Didn't we make a big mistake? That's what I'm waiting for. Um, Still waiting to hear from the guy in Olympia to get the apartment down there that I really don't want to move into, but whatever. Enough of that garbage. Um, I spent the last couple of days um, going over some passages. Like I said, I'm on 14, book 14. Um, and I basically have been just editing at this point, just really ripping a whole bunch of stuff out. And like I said, it's only okay, it's 14 and then 15, 16 there. 16's the end. 14, 15, 15 um and 16 are pretty much they're going to New Orleans to wait for the ships to, come and get them to take them, like I said before, to England. So I'm closing in on it. And once I get done with that, I really have to start focusing on the new book. I really got to get with that because I'm starting to, but, I think that pretty much this is good because I think it would have been a really shock to my system if the editor had to you know rip it apart like that. The less work they have to do, the better, I'm thinking. And the less work they have to do, the more then likely it'll read like I want it to read. If I let them do it, I'm kind of nervous about how it'll come out. So I was working on a passage and I just kept going over it, going over it, going over it. It's one of my minor characters, and my lead female character. I wanted them to kind of become friends. I wanted them to be okay, with each other. And I just couldn't write it. I couldn't write it. I took it out, and then I'm thinking, wow, that really needs to be in there because these two really have to come to an understanding. And I wrote it, took it out, cut, paste, did everything I could, and then finally I just had to scrap it and go a different way. And I think that's a lesson in that for 20, class of 2114. Um, that you really have to sometimes scrap it, scrap the whole thing, just get rid of it. Not only do you have to edit yourself and get rid of things, but you also sometimes have to do a whole different rewrite, like a whole different start from a whole different point of view. So I had to do that. And instead of trying to make it a dialogue between those two, they happen at this minor characters um, engagement party. I thought, it's getting too weird. It's getting too weird, and it's too much like I was talking about before. It was too much flashback in and all that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking just letting it be. And then what I did was I just made it a journal entry that my lead character makes a journal entry saying how they've made up. And then when it comes time for my this minor character's uh, wedding, then that is when it comes, when the whole thing comes to cycle that these two finally, decide that they're, going that they're going to be friends. And it's, it gets really impressed with this girl a lot that this woman has done. She's come a long way. Also, one of my favorite parts is I don't cry anymore. When I was writing it, I really used to, every time I went back over it, I was crying, but I'm kind of detached from it now, so I don't have to cry quite so much. But was my villain leaving the town and going back to Georgia to meet his fate. And I know, like I've said before, he ends up deciding that instead of what happens is he gets back to the plantation he escaped from, and my lead character, her, Georgia, her lover from Georgia, is now the master of the neighboring plantation. And what he does is, instead of sentencing this man to death, he sentences him to what they call on their plantation a living death, which means he's going to eat the same thing 3 times a day. He isn't allowed to speak to anyone. No one's allowed to speak to him, and all he does is work 7 days a week. And he has to wear chains and a head cage and all this kind of thing for the rest of his life. And that's one of the metamorphoses that my villain, my main villain, makes, is that he decides he'd rather die, like really die, than to be, subjected to this, because he's gone through such a change in his life. He's gone through, he's realized, he said he's realized his manhood, he's realized his worth. And even though he is a slave, he has control over one thing, his life. One thing that he has control over is his life. So he basically, what we would call now suicide by cop, basically that's what he does, suicide by overseer, I guess, and decides that, he gets up the courage and decides he wants to die. That part is in is that in 14, or is that no, that's in 14. And so that stuff happened, so I had to end up changing the whole, I end up, like I said before, I ended up changing like just a few things in there. That's pretty well written. The further along it got, the better written it was. Up until a certain point, I really need to did do a lot of cutting, and I didn't realize a lot about a lot of that flashbacking and stuff. But you learn as you go. So I was going to touch on, um, just like I didn't get that job. Um, far as I'm concerned, far as I'm concerned, there are a lot of people who sing and dance better than a whole lot of people we look at on TV every day. There are some people on TV making a lot of money, very popular, who have no talent. They just lucked up and happen to be at the right place at the right time. Wherein there are street musicians and, kids in ballet school and in drama school and stuff like that, who probably end up being waitresses and stuff, that have much more talent than a lot of people we see on TV or hear on the radio. And there comes there comes a difference between, like I said, having money and being rich, and being talented and being popular. There's a difference. And it's the same thing with writing. um, I know I write better than a lot of people out there that have sold millions and millions of books. I know I do. I know it, you know. And but that's just some of the things you have to, realize within yourself, and have to accept as far as society is concerned, because we're not all going to sell a million. I am, but like, we're not all going to sell $1 million. But if you leave your manuscript to your grandkids, if you leave your manuscript to your great, if you live child free, and you leave your manuscripts to your great nephews or your great nieces or whoever you leave it to, if you put in a freaking time capsule, whatever you do with it, someone's going to read it, and even if no one reads it except one other person, you took it out of your head and put it down on paper. And as far as I'm concerned, that makes you a success. As far as I'm concerned, that makes you a writer. um I was going to, let me see. God, my eyes are so bad. Let me see. Talent. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, and something else that's one of my pet peeves is celebrities who write books, and their books get published. And I ain't gonna mention no names, but because this person has a name. She called herself writing romance novels, and she can't write. But because she's blank blank blank, or so and so's wife, actually she didn't do nothing. But she has that name, so their books sell a lot. Wherein someone like me or somebody like you who are out there, um, fledgling rappers, dancers, people like that, writers, we struggle, and just like I was saying, and actually have talent. And like I was saying about that job, would have really been very, very good at that job, helping other veterans. And I was just like, okay, but they must have had their quota. See, that's what happens when you're black and a woman. But I thought, okay, well, I'm black, a woman, I'm old. you know, there's no way I won't get this job. But they must have had their quota already. So let them, like I said before, let them keep it. It's not sour grapes. Let them keep it. I know it's hard to keep your faith. When things like that these things keep happening to you. But just try to hang in there, because I hate to be corny, but it's tomorrow's another day. And also too, I found that I'm feeling much better as far as the stress level is concerned. um I'm dreaming again. Well, you have to dream. If you don't dream, you die. So but I'm remembering my dreams, and I'm sleeping like longer, like I'm going to bed at 8:30 and waking up like just barely at 7, when I was like waking up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't go back to sleep just from the stress and the anxiety and all that stuff like that. But I think you know some of the stress of that, my son has gone to another team, and some like I said before, some of the things are working out better for him. And especially since it looked like I might have been getting a job, which I didn't get, but a place to stay, blah blah blah. That maybe some of the stress, without me even knowing it, um, is dissipating, because I'm sleeping, like I said, sleeping. And I remember I dreamed last night about being dressed up and going to a party, and it seems like it was me and a bunch of other girls, and we were getting ready to go somewhere like the theater or somewhere like that. I can't remember where we were going. And I was getting dressed, putting on fancy clothes. We were debating on where or not we were going, and that's a pretty good sign. I should have looked up this in my dream book and saw what it meant. I also dreamed, I don't know if it was last night, it might have been the night before, about going to crossing a street, and that's a good sign. And there's also another dream I have whenever I have problems or something bad's going on. I always have this dream about wandering through this house. And whenever I have that dream, I think it must click something subconscious in my brain or something like that, because whenever I have that dream, it just seems like, things will work out. I also was at Rally Point 6. I told you guys that's a Veterans Association. And when I got the news that I hadn't gotten the job, I hadn't checked my email, over the Thanksgiving holidays. I hadn't checked it. And I checked it while I was there. And that's when I got the email. And, I was kind of upset. And, everybody was trying to talk to me and, say, oh, don't give up, don't give up. But, it's hard. It's hard. And then last night I ended up having to go to the store, and I ended up spending uh, a lot more money I don't have, to get a couple of things that I needed for my cat food for my cat and things like that. And I was trying not to spend but so much, but it's nothing to do about that. So um with those dreams, and I've noticed I'm feeling better. I'm not, and I've also noticed that I'm not eating as much. I had a lot of food left over. Usually I go shopping like every Zanzibar, stop. Usually I go shopping every week. Every week I go shopping. And I had a lot of food left over this time. And I'm not hungry at all. I've been actually eating. I'm not one of those people that I don't care what's going on. I can eat unless something's really, really bad. That's the only time I cannot eat. But other than that, I don't have any problems eating, trust me. But As a matter of fact, the opposite. But as long as I stay on my supplements and stuff like that, I'm blessed that I have free medical and can get these things for free, thank goodness. Or I'd really be in a mess. Um, I'm thinking, what? Yeah, and something else I realized too, that I have to have something on my stomach when I go to sleep. I cannot go to sleep on an empty stomach. That they don't stop. They don't uh I've always heard don't go to sleep on a full stomach, and or you'll get fat or stuff like that. But in my case with the diabetes and everything, uh um if I go to sleep hungry, my blood sugar drops. And when it drops, I wake up. That's why a baby wakes up when they're hungry. It's because, your blood sugar drops. And that makes me wake up. So I am going to, I did a lot of, there's something I really want to get into, but I don't want to start it because I only have a couple more minutes and I don't want to get into it and don't have time to finish. So let me see if it's something I can I talked about selling books. I talked about the celebrity selling books that makes me angry. And it says, um, talent, you can have it. I'm going to talk about the second book. Oh, I know what I can talk about. No, I don't want to talk about that. Oh, the second book. I had named it, um, Pas de deux, which is French, means dance for two. But like I said, I had changed it to another, um, I changed it to another to a German word that means like the twilight time, the time between light and dark, something like that, which I thought was a fitting title for that. I know I'm jumping all around, but I don't want to start on, something different and get all wound up in something and then have it go over 20 minutes, because I've noticed if it goes on over 20 minutes, it takes it forever to upload, and I'm going to be doing that later. So what I'm going to do, even though this is cutting short, I'm going to go and feed this cat before he makes me angry. And he's just like a kid. As soon as I get it, for now, I sat here all morning, working, listening to, playing, looking at, DVDs, or rather listening to DVDs. That's one of my habits. And he slept. As soon as I get in front of this camera, that's exactly when he starts bugging me. But I love him very much. You don't have to worry, that I kind of yell at him at times. He's very well cared for. I love him very, very much. He's been my companion. He's been my big black kid. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go feed him, and then I am going to get on the start going down my list and get on my subject matter for the day. So I'll see you later.